Yeah, g'day, Bush Camping Tools here. Hunting knives. This is a subject very close to my heart. You see, I've got a bunch of hunting knives here. This is just a small fraction of the hunting knives I have. And I'm going to talk about these individually and say why I like them for hunting. And then I'm going to show you some knives which could be hunting knives, but I would not use them as hunting knives. Obviously, this is for people that are not already into hunting and hunting knives, but maybe you want to get into hunting and you want to get yourself a hunting knife. And later I'll talk about why I think a knife is a hunting knife and it's not some tactical knife, or it's not some camping knife as opposed to a knife for camping and hiking. However, there can be crossovers. Okay, so the first thing I would recommend if you're new to the game is not to buy a hunting knife over the internet, if possible. Okay, that may not be, maybe you can't come into a shop or something like that, but I would personally go to a shop, and the reason is because what's important is hand size. The hand size, and what may appear to be a comfortable handle or the right hand size over the internet, you may get the thing and it's just never going to be right, and that could be a big problem, because hunting knives generally, when you're performing some task on an animal, whether it's gutting, skinning, etc., butchering the meat, you're working on it for some minutes at a time, and it must be comfortable. So let's look at that. Let's talk about comfort now. So comfort, what does that mean? It can mean different things to different people. For example, this is a really small hunting knife here, and you can see straight away that the handle is quite large compared to the length of the blade, and that gives you control. So my hand is about 8.5, 9 in size, and you could probably put a 9-sized hand on this as well. And also, because this is tapered in here like that, you could get a smaller hand on that. But basically, I'm going to have a lot of good control. If I grab the knife like this, I can almost put my index finger to the end of the blade, and that's going to give me, wherever I point my index finger, that's going to give me really good control over the blade. So that's the first thing, and this is a very comfortable grip on here. Despite the grip being smooth, you may get blood and guts all over your hands, whether it's hunting or fishing, etc., and you want to be able to grip it. So because this is indented in here, and you can't tell this by looking at it on the internet really, you've got to try it on. And I've got a great grip. My thumb just naturally rests in here like that. That knife cannot slip forwards or backwards on me. The back end doesn't have any funky spikes or anything like that on there, because it's not meant for that. That's not that kind of thing, so I'm not going to injure myself. But I've got great control there with that. Okay, let's put that aside for a second. Let's just randomly pick up any old one here too. This is another one here. Again, a small blade. I can grip it like this, or this one's further back. The handle's about the same size as the other one. I can put my thumb there. I can rest further back. My finger is further from the tip. Okay, you might have longer fingers, shorter, a smaller hand or a larger hand. But again, the handle is comfortable and a non-slip handle. This has got some scalloping here in the handle, and it feels good in the hand. You have to have it in the hand for some minutes possibly. Here's another one here. This could be good for hunting. I've not used this one yet for hunting, but it could be good for hunting. This is a flat ground blade here. The handle is quite smooth, and I'm not sure how that would go with lots of blood and guts all over it, but it is certainly comfortable. And I'll talk about why I would select this one less for hunting a bit later on. Put that back in the scabbard for a sec. Here's a classic, unfortunately no longer available. This is a bare bones hunting knife. This is from Linda when they were around. This is coming towards the end of their business operations, and they made this absolutely excellent hunting knife. It's got a no fuss handle on there of Kraton. You can get it covered in all sorts of guts and stuff, and it's absolutely fine. You got a good grip. I put my index finger there, and it rests directly onto the jimping on the blade, and it's rounded down here, so when it sits in the palm of my hand, it's not digging into the palm of my hand. It's very, very comfortable, so I can get a lot of control out of that. Okay, what have we got here? So this is the Echo by Kisler Supreme. This is another great no-nonsense hunting knife. It's a saber grind on here. Again, I can grip it back here like this. My fingers are not falling off the end where my hand is on there, and my index finger is on the jimping on there for control. Or I can put my thumb up there. I can grab it up here like this and hold it like that, and I've got very good control with it. The blade is not too long. Something very German, another knife happens to be from Linde. You'll see this is still in really pristine condition. That's because I'm putting this away, really. I'm not going to be belting this around since Linde's no more. But anyway, I have used this, and you've seen me butcher meat with it in the past. This is an excellent knife. It's a little bit more heavy duty than the other ones I've just shown there. A little bit more weighty blade. And this has got a thumb ramp on here, jimping. This is a little bit different. You can't really put your index finger out on this. This will require a different way of using the knife, albeit you can use it for skinning, but it's a much longer blade. This is something that I would use both for hunting and camping. If I'm out bow hunting, or if you're out hunting away from a vehicle, you can use the same knife for hunting as you could for around camp duties. Here's another nice knife with a comfortable grip on it, a no-nonsense knife. It's a Kisler knife. It's just a full flat grind. Again, there's no jimping on this or anything, but you've got a good grip on this handle here. It's completely rounded across here, so it's a good comfortable handle on there. It's not for birds because it's a bit too wide, I feel, but nonetheless this is good for fish and game. Not so super good for skinning because it's a bit more of a pointed tip. But yeah, lightweight hiking, camping, and some hunting. Not so dedicated so much for the hunting side of things. And this one here, this is just another Echo, except this is just in a different steel. When the earlier model was a hollow grind, so it's very good for cutting. So these are, you know, pretty much, let's just sort them out here. Definitely very, very good for butchering and hunting, this knife here. But unfortunately, you won't get it anymore unless you can find it secondhand or in some shop that has not managed to sell it yet. You've got this one here, classic kind of drop point. And this one here, a very good little Skinner with a much bigger handle. You see the handle is about as big as these handles here, but you've got a shorter blade, so you've got a lot of control with this one here. So what knives could you use here for camping as well as hunting? Well, I think you could use pretty much for sure. I mean, obviously in a pinch you could use everything, but let's just say to make it really comfortable, I would take this one out of the equation there. I'd be able to use all of these, I think, quite comfortably for camping duties as well too, whilst out on the same trip. I would take this one, maybe not so great for the hunting, but for general camp duties and hiking. So this is a bit of a crossover, but certainly the more heavy duty one would be something like that. You see we've got a bigger blade in there. If I match that up there, that's the biggest blade out of all those there. And this one here is just, you know, this is okay for camping. It's a little bit too smooth, I think, for hunting. This is more of a camping knife here because the handle is just too smooth on there. Of course, you could roughen up the wood and that, but you destroy the handle by doing so. Yeah, so I wouldn't necessarily take this one out. I put this one over here in this category. Let's move my coffee. I put that in the category of camping there with that like that. So maybe it's easy to talk about what I wouldn't use for hunting. Let's give an example. So just because it's a small knife doesn't mean to say it's any good for hunting. Let's have a look here. For example, here, this is a small Spanish knife. It's about the same size blade you can see as these ones here. Now, why wouldn't I choose this for hunting? First of all, it's very heavy in the handle. The tang, it's very, very heavy, and you cannot determine that, the weight distribution of the knife, just by looking on the internet. It's very heavy in the handle, and also, while this is an okay kind of camp knife, for prolonged use, I wouldn't recommend it because the profile, let me see if we can focus on this. Right, I hope you can see that there. The cross-sectional profile across here is flat. And so this is more of an acute edge there, and this is going to rub, and it does rub on wet hands. This will rub on the hands across there. You need a rounded profile across the top. And you see, the thing is, well, it's grippy here. The scales are really grippy, but that's not good enough. You need to have a rounded profile up there for some very good comfort when we're talking about using hunting knives. Let me give you another example too. So remember, this is just my personal preference, but here's another, I really love this knife. This is a J&V knife from Spain, very well made, beautiful knife, very beautiful. But would I take it hunting? Well, you could hunt with it, of course. You can hunt with anything, as I've said before, use it in hunting. However, this is really handle heavy. This is just really handle heavy, and it's very smooth, this grip, and it's super comfortable, but I don't think it's suitable for hunting because there's not enough grip on the side there. It has the rounded profile here, which, you know, gives me a check for go. It's got a nice comfortable spine, good jimping everywhere, but it's just a heavy knife because there's a lot of metal in that handle, and that's really important. We're not after some super heavy implement, so I would put these two knives, this one because the profile is flat across the top and it's handle heavy, this one because it's just handle heavy and it's smooth on the scales, it's too smooth. So let's put those over there. They would be good. Just move them so you can see them. They would be good, you know, just camping knives or taking out hiking as opposed to hunting knives, despite having, let me move the camera slightly there, despite having similar sized blades does not automatically designate them as a knife to be used for hunting. This one here is definitely a hunting knife. And just to add another knife in there, this is one of the earlier knives from TRC, the K1 in Vanix. It's also a nice little hunting knife as well too. Now, what would be my preferences here with these things? Well, to be honest, you know, no nonsense handles are the best, you know, things that are not going to absorb blood and guts and moisture very well. Well, treated wood is pretty good, but I've said that about that. This Mikata's okay if it's sealed. Some Mikatas which are a little bit rough and ground, they can absorb materials into them. This kind here, this is impervious to everything. The Kraton, the synthetics, this is kind of a rough finished Mikata here, and this will tend to absorb blood and guts, and you have to be careful cleaning it out, and you actually have to be careful that it dries properly because it will absorb moisture. It's not kind of sealed. I don't have any, this is kind of like a G10, but I've said that already. I mean, I'm just going to use it as an example because we're not talking about that as a hunting knife, but it's kind of sealed, so it's not going to absorb anything. This is treated wood, so it's perfectly okay. Yeah, so there's some considerations. Now, I think with hunting knives, one has to be very careful and very stringent with keeping their blades and the entire knife clean. You can get away with it if you're just hiking and camping. Obviously, you need the blade clean for, you know, hygienic reasons so you don't get sick, you don't poison yourself. So that brings me to the point of scabbards. So in terms of scabbards today, we have three kinds which are available to us. Full leather for hunting knives, some kind of more modern Kydex type thing, and plastic. Okay, so clearly this is really, you know, I can throw the thing in the washing machine if I had to, no problems with that. You can't do that with leather. Don't ever put a dirty knife, especially with blood and guts, into a leather scabbard. You're going to ruin the leather scabbard because that will encourage bacteria to grow no matter even if the leather is treated. That's a sure way to destroy it. If you regularly hunt, you have to be extra careful that you're not contaminating your leather scabbard with that. And of course, Kydex is much more forgiving. You can, you know, it doesn't have that pizzazz, that style of leather, and it's rigid. It just doesn't have any style. Okay, this one's not super stylish, but nonetheless, you know, obviously this is bare bones, and you can chuck it in a bucket of water, sanitize it, everything. You don't have to worry so much about it. So again, leather. If you're going to have a leather scabbard, you've got to make sure it's, you know, has not absorbed moisture, because all stainless steels will rust if you don't look after them. I'll do a video on that shortly. And this one here, this plastic, is the bare bones on that. So just to recap, just because it's got a small blade on it doesn't mean to say it's suitable for hunting. They could be too heavy in the handle. They may not have enough grip. The blade may not be suitable for skinning, if that's your thing. Maybe you're not into skinning, and it doesn't matter. If you're not into skinning, then it doesn't matter. But I would choose something which is not handle heavy for that. You've got a good crossover really with any of these except this one. These ones here that could be used for both hunting and camp duties. they're more than sturdy enough for that. I leave this one out here because it's got such a short blade on it, so I wouldn't necessarily take that. You could, this would be something that I would pair with something else. But if you didn't want to pair, and for bow hunters, you may hike into the place and camp away from a vehicle. It's good that you can go. If you don't need to take two knives, it's better than having to carry. The more gear you got to carry, the more heavy you're going to be, the less mobile you're going to be. So a range of knives such as this would be cool. Now, there's a bazillion different kinds of hunting knives available, probably more types of knives which manufacturers are saying hunting knives than there are not. But as I said at the beginning of the video, I think it's best if you can try before you buy, especially with a hunting knife, because you need to make sure your hands, your paws are going to fit that handle and it's going to be comfortable. So you need a smooth profile but grippy, okay? And that's why I would not choose something like this. But again, if it comes to the crunch, you can do it. I have been out and tested my Spec Plus Ontario years ago just to see a much bigger 7-inch blade, way off base with that. It was too uncomfortable. You're going to, you're exercising your wrist too much on that, trying to do that kind of thing. That's why generally hunting knives have much smaller blades. One last thing I want to say about hunting knives is you may feel too that you want to lead with your thumb in all the actions, and that's fine. So if you want to lead with your thumb when holding the knife, you have to make sure that whatever knife you choose, that when you put your hand on it, that your thumb rests comfortably there and you're not stretched out or it's not too far back there like that, as opposed to some people want to lead with their index finger, and if you've got your index finger right back here, then the knife may be too short. So this one, for the thumb, which is good like that, but sometimes, you want to have your index finger there. Now this is a bit thinner up here with this swedge up there, and that may not be comfortable for you. So you have to see what is best for you. So that's why I suggested or suggest that you actually try before you buy when it comes to a hunting knife.